What makes a good story? There's a lot of people out there saying what is and isn't a good story, but I believe few really encapsulate what makes a good story in videos like these advising you on the subject, as there are different value models for different stories. Intention and audience reaction plays a huge factor. Some of my favorite books are considered the best in their genre, but have blatant plot issues, as the point of the novel isn't the cohesive plot. I'm Sabah Black Sheep. Have you any soul? No sir, no sir. But today, I want to explore different elements of good storytelling and how you can pinpoint the message and intention of your own story to make sure you're writing it with this sound value model. I'm an independent webcomic artist and writer, so my personal knowledge will be around that area. However, this video really applies to any form of storytelling, in any medium, be it a video game, a book, a comic, whatever your heart desires. Narrative writing extends past the medium it's being translated through. But before we get started, consider checking out my webcomic Penelope's Peon, where you follow the old corrupt cop Alosha DuPont on a questionable job as he comes to terms with his perspective and life experience. If that doesn't tickle your pickle, check out the Patreon to get weekly exclusive Discord streams where I draw whatever you want. Or join the 17+ Discord server to meet a bunch of cool artists and get your art in the next video. But without further ado, we begin. What makes a good story depends on a lot of different factors, not just what's the deepest or most profound. What makes a good story is what fulfills its intent and connects with an audience in some way. I tend to enjoy more philosophical work and commentary on the human condition, so medias like Disco Elysium connect with me a great deal, where, on the other hand, I don't much enjoy unrealistic characters or world portrayals like Genshin Impact. Now, does that mean Genshin Impact is bad? No! I don't like it as I'm not the intended audience, and of course, if I judge Genshin Impact with my philosophical value set, of course it won't hold up. As Genshin isn't about the human condition, burgeoning consciousness, or political philosophy, but it's fun and relatable to some. And it doesn't need to be. I often see medias like Hazbin Hotel, Genshin, Cookie Run, certain web series judged in a manner that isn't aligned with the core messaging of the original media. Now, that doesn't mean any of these stories are free from criticism. Let's start with something people know well. Hazbin Hotel. Hazbin Hotel is not a bad show, but it is mediocre, and I'll go through the reasons why I believe that is so, and why it's okay to still love it. One of my favorite games beyond Disco Elysium is Elder Scrolls Online, a shitty MMORPG, not because it has good writing, but because it's fun. So please, allow yourself to enjoy mid-media without taking personal offense to its just criticism. I love Disco Elysium above literally every other narrative media out there, but if someone said they didn't like it because it's wordy and dense, I'd say, that's fair, because it is wordy and dense. What Hazbin Hotel undoubtedly does well is create an interesting environment and situation that hasn't really been explored before in an animated series. Hell has often been off limits as a lot of the animation industry has to adhere to corporate giants, that no large groups of religious folk will boycott the story. Hazbin Hotel did good creating something that piqued the interest of millions. It also keeps its audience engaged. Watching it is hard to get bored. But there are a few key things it seems to fall flat on: character inconsistency, pacing, archetypal writing style, and not fleshing out the main female pair. Not to be the annoying woke snowflake to cry misogyny, but why does the one sapphic relationship of the main characters have no screen time or build up? I don't want to spend the whole video talking about Hazbin Hotel, so I'll just go through these relatively fast. Character inconsistency. Angel Dust spends half the show assaulting others and crossing other people's boundaries, then has this serious episode about his assault and trauma which comes across as jarring and unrealistic. There's a way to keep that lighthearted comedic value with the pushing people's boundaries while also later identifying it as a flaw and coping mechanism in Angel Dust's character. And it's vaguely shown in that manner, but it isn't really explored upon in a way that feels like actual introspection. More like, okay, I'll stop putting up walls. Coming across more self-serving rather than fully comprehending how he affects and treats others. There isn't a point where Angel Dust actually realizes he's projecting an identity similar to his abuser to cope with vulnerability, which I think would have been a lot more impactful and less cliche. An abusive relationship like that is impactful and disturbing, and it's clear in the show's writing VisiPop wanted to have this deep introspective moment, but it lacks the depth it needs to identify the whole problem. More so turned Angel Dust into this sad boy with a heart of gold, when in reality, it has a lot deeper implications. Pacing is another factor. There's no reprieve or time for situations to grow and build up, where there is always something happening and too many characters to cycle through for only 8 episodes. That when the payoff happens, it feels random and shallow. For example, Vaggie being an angel and the whole drama around Charlie being mad at her for not telling her seems so forced. Vaggie gets barely any screen time or development. That just makes it hard for the audience to care that much, especially since Vaggie and Charlie's relationship seems so empty and lacking merit that it's hard to care about either of them to begin with. If you have characters in a relationship, how you depict them is incredibly important, but all their moments are pretty much off screen, or even if they are on screen, we see so little of them, it comes across as jarring to see them together romantically. It's like you forget they're in a relationship. Now, if in season 2 there's a moment and build up between them that Vaggie has always felt like she's fallen at the wayside, was pigeonholed into more of a friends with benefits than an actual partner, then the way it was written in season 1 would have been perfect. The cat and the spider have more chemistry than them. Why is it always the gay men that get depth in Vizzy's work? But that's the thing. They're written like they don't matter, which is why when you are writing a relationship, you really need to consider what the other party means to the other. How do they share a life? What are their main arguments about? How do they react to said arguments? And ultimately, how does the relationship serve to push the plot forward? The archetypal writing is more so that a lot of the characters in the show feel like they fall into well-worn cliches. Angel Dust is the bad boy with the sad past, Alistair is the evil Tumblr sexy man, Charlie is the clueless Disney princess, and Husk is the grumpy old guy that's like a mentor or whatever. And they don't really push out of those archetypes. Even when they do, it's on course for the growth of said archetypes. Angel Dust learns to be vulnerable. We haven't yet seen how Alistair ends, so I'm assuming he either gets redeemed and barely changes, or if we're being unique, he gets defeated. But I doubt that will happen. Charlie will get vaguely more mature, and Husk will make friends with Angel Dust and be slightly less miserable. Hopefully I'm wrong, and they take more interesting turns in season 2, but with only 8 episodes and so many characters, they can't balance the show well. It often comes across like a fever dream, which is why I say it's a fun show, but it suffers from a lot of inconsistencies and flaws. I think if the show had 8 episodes, it would have been worlds better. Remember, your story can't be everything, otherwise it will be spread too thin and unable to complete itself. Ask yourself, what is the intention of your story, and contain it within that. Think of artistic passion like a liquid you put into a mold. It means nothing unless you make a concise mold that doesn't leak or won't have a lot of air bubbles. Many people have a shonen complex, that being that the narrative goes on forever and loses any understanding of itself and deeper message it was trying to convey. In kids shows, the shonen model can work as the expectation isn't quality, it's quantity. But this is why so many shonen shows have aged poorly, because of the decentered nature of their writing style. Old shonens like One Piece and Naruto won't compete well in today's content market. Sure, they compete fine right now because of the nostalgia and pre-interest. but I cannot see another piece of media with its style holding people's attention nearly as long. Take Demon Slayer, for example. This generation's Naruto. It's a shonen, and from start to finish, it has a concise goal in mind. It doesn't really lose sight of. Each arc is building up for that one big goal, that is killing Muzan. Unlike Naruto, that went on and on and on and on forever and lost its plot so many damn times. Or for One Piece, I'm not even convinced there is an overarching plot by this point. Today's attention spans are far more short than they once were, so needing a more well-formed plot trajectory will help a lot in not just keeping people engaged, but making a story that has merit. Know the quality of stories change in time. Take a look at The Odyssey versus Breaking Bad. Both were and are considered utter masterpieces of their time. Yet frankly, Breaking Bad has far better character writing and development, a far more realized plot and commentary on the human condition. Want to know why? Because The Odyssey is over 2,000 years old and lacks the perspective we have now. Literature builds off each other. Once the Grand Inquisitor chapter in Brothers Karamazov was the most thought-provoking and enlightening text in its generation, becomes a little pedantic in a culture that has long since decentered the church and state and its social and cultural power. But that doesn't mean it isn't a masterpiece. It's just media is a product of its time period and culture it was created in. That's why a lot of people's comics and stories fall flat, because it's often heavily inspired and referenced off of the ebb and flow of media we have surpassed without reinventing it. It's okay to get inspiration from your favorite childhood animes, but I'm begging you, put a spin on it and recreate it in a way that challenges a new modern perspective. Then comes the value set for different narrative genres. Some people say writing isn't bound to a status quo. Well, that's dog water. It just isn't bound to a single status quo. Comedy, drama, horror, all have different intentions, and from that, a different set of values that it should be graded on. Example, someone loves anime from the early 2000s like Fruits Basket and wants to make a story inspired off it. Make it lighthearted, funny, but poignant and relatable. Then they must understand the tropes used in the genre and how to reinvent it. You don't necessarily have to change the archetypes like the bad boy with the heart of gold, but you can change how said archetypes affect the plot. Instead of a bad boy with a heart of gold redeeming and becoming less volatile, his immaturity and emotional dysfunction cause him to rationalize very hurtful actions, never truly overcoming himself. You can keep that lighthearted poignancy, kind of tricking your audience into thinking this is the normal bad boy archetype, and then rip it out under them by making it poignant by showing that he was never actually able to overcome these immaturities, thus creating intrigue, which is, at least to say, far more realistic for these type of individuals. Or having the nice girl archetype like Toru become confident and mature as she goes through the story and more willing to speak out and becoming a lot more like her mom. A lot of people change from teenagehood to adulthood, especially what they're willing to put up with. Even her realizing her innate need to fawn and understand is a product of her chaotic upbringing, how she loves it about herself but finds that in truth it is foolish in a world we live in, and struggling to find the middle ground between the kindness and needing to pull away. These aren't even big changes from the original story, just more explored upon and expanded, that will take the trope and show the real-world implication of these personality types, while also keeping that fun, nostalgic vibe. Honestly, a good practice is to find shows from your childhood and rewrite them for a modern audience, and put a part of yourself in the writing. There are billions of people on this earth, and there's only one you, so use your unique experience in your writing. Don't endlessly try to recreate what your favorite artists have. Take their shit and make it better. Anyway, that's all I have for today, folks. If you like my work, consider commissioning me. You can reach out to me on Instagram, Discord, and Blue Sky, all in the link tree in the description. You got work tomorrow, or school, or yapping about writing again. But as always, don't dream about wheat-based byproducts. Moi, je m'appelle mademoiselle Noire, et qu'on va pour la voix,